Zoom very well, as many other digital tools. So let's just check if we can communicate. So before we start, on the bottom of the screen, you have a chat. If you could open the chat box and type your name and the city that you're now located in. Okay, Agata, Barcelona, Jacek, Kraków, Marcus, Geneva. Wow, you're going too fast. I cannot read it all, but go ahead. Wonderful. Gdańsk, Portugal, Magdeburg, Leuven. Wonderful. Wonderful. So while we'll be admitting people to join, I would like you to write one sentence you would like others to be remembered for. And if you want to be contacted and you just want to connect with this community, we will not do it for you. So you're very welcome to write your email if you want others to see who you are or your LinkedIn profile. In other words, we start with a little bit of experiment. You can be totally anonymous. This is perfectly fine. But you can also see, wow, we have someone from Jacksonville, Florida. Nice. Oh. Okay. So just let's think, you know, why would it make sense for you to open up, say who you are, maybe share your LinkedIn. I see that Ferry shared the LinkedIn and Manoy as well, so that people can check whom they met here. And I want to do this experiment because later today, I will be sharing a real life example about virtual onboarding. And I think that since the topic today is about e-networking for innovation, you know that it's not about giving the business cards, that it's about building meaningful relations. So whenever you show up virtually, and I guess that you're showing up to many events, you may choose if you're just a ghost, so you don't exist, or if you're saying, hey, maybe there is my digital twin there, and I would love to meet this person, or maybe there is the right influencer, and that it would be nice for me to know who they are. So it's up to you to choose the strategy. And I think we have everyone now we wanted to join. So if you allow me, I will share my screen. Now, I want you to know that when I'm sharing my screen, unfortunately, I cannot see you all. So the procedure for this will be the following. If you want to ask a question for later or comment, please write it in the chat. And Evelina, if you can show where you are by saying hello. And I think that you already know Evelina, who's my very dear colleague. So Evelina will help me gather all the questions, and then we will be taking them one by one. So, so let me just find my presentation. Okay, it's opening. I just need your, right, someone showed me one more thing I should do. So on the bottom of the screen, you also have a little icon saying, hello, Ruben, it's been a long time I haven't seen you. Okay, you have reactions, hi. Right? Hello, yeah, you have reactions, right? So when you open the reactions, there are a few options you can do. And you can send me a heart, a red heart, which means that you love me. You can clap your hands, meaning that you basically like very much what I'm saying, or you can send the face with the tears that you're laughing at what I'm doing. And I will then say, Daria, maybe you've taken it too far. Now, you see, you cannot be critical, okay? So we have a code that we're just very positive. And hey, hello, Marcus, nice to see you too. And I see many faces. I know I cannot say hello to all of you, but listen, you know, I think it will be a fun webinar. So now that we have a procedure, you know that you can introduce yourselves, you know that you can say only good things. I am going to share my screen and walk you through I prepared for today. So today's session is about e-networking for innovation. And we wanted to attract you by saying, hey, how do you disrupt the system and raise 2.7 billion euro? And you know what? Earlier today, I was in Israel and I asked the same question. And those practical Israeli people asked back and saying, why the hell would you need 2.7 billion if I can just create a community and disrupt the system anyway? What do you think about it? Right? I thought it was really cool that young people today just, you know, think that they can disrupt the system with very little resources, but with the ability to use networking, which is basically building networks and building communities to disrupt. But the serious story, as some of you know, is that indeed it's a real story that I referred to in my book, where I was trying to answer the question where innovation comes from and why in certain places you're changing the system or the ecosystem and in others you don't. So just for those of you who do not know my research and the research that we're doing right now at Tata Innovation is that basically to solve wicked problems, you need to disrupt the system. To disrupt the system, you basically do not need much, but you do need a bit of talent, knowledge, and funding. And if you have the bit of knowledge, talent, and funding, you should dedicate this to connect the silos. Because whether we're speaking about the innovation hubs in your city or in your country or globally, everywhere, this is the fragmentation that creates the lack of flow of knowledge and it's blocking innovation. Now, in my book, I claim, and by the way, the book is also now available as a ebook, so it can be downloaded from Amazon. In the book, I tell a story about 3 partnerships that are today very mature and very old partnerships. But when they were created 10 years ago, they actually were babies in terms of concept. One is called EIT Climate, the other EIT Digital, and the third one, Kick Inner Energy. Now, these partnerships bring together top research institutes in Europe, best universities, large industry, and then they try to instill the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship by sponsoring different acceleration programs, entrepreneurship education. And I had an honor to be part of the founding team of this, of the institute, but also setting up the concept of these partnerships. Now, I think that you can tell a strategy about how you disrupt the system and how you're building this human connections showing numbers. So you can say, hey, there are 20,000 graduates from our entrepreneurship programs, or saying, hey, our companies have raised totally 270 million euro. These are fake numbers. I do not know the real numbers, but it doesn't really matter. Because sometimes something that happens at the very end, at the very periphery of a network can be a game changer. And this is a group of alumni of the EIT. And I see my friends in Barcelona know where the photo was taken. It's right at the Pont del Petroli in Badalona. And this was still when there was no lockdown and we could meet on the beach and try to innovate the world together. We sponsored the Startup Days in Barcelona 2 years ago. And I was thinking at a time that these young people are connected to one of the most powerful ecosystems in Europe. And they asked us to give them a challenge, mentors, and an award. So the challenge we gave them was to transform post-industrial polígonos in Barcelona. And they loved the challenge and came up with 4 great ideas to create an artificial innovation center in Los Tres Chimeneas, to create a carbon neutral village in those abandoned polígonos, and two other projects. Actually, the third one was super cool, to create Badalona a paradise for surfers. Because if you created a special technology to protect the pier from the effects of the ever higher sea level and more disruptive weather, you could also use this technology to create a wave so that those digital nomads could come to Badalona, settle in Badalona, and become really an innovation hub. Now, we did a lot to experiment how to connect the dots in the ecosystem and see to what extent these ideas can be taken real. Honestly, we were not able to take them real. And this is perfectly fine, because today, 2 years later, totally, connecting the dots in the ecosystem, Badalona just attracted a new investment, which will be a new energy institute created there. Is there any direct connection to the retreat that we did? Maybe yes, maybe no. Surely I'm the person who's part of the connection, but it's not a story about me. It's a story about that to change the system, to disrupt the system, to use networking for innovation, you must be both a leader and an influencer. So when we designed this Network IQ program, we thought that really it started with the EIT alumni retreat. We understood that there is something wrong if the good ideas cannot get translated into reality. And of course, our idea was crazy and our ambition was crazy, thinking that a group of young people can plant a seed to transform a post-industrial part of the city. But this is not true, actually. I think we should all have a sense that we're on a mission. And with my team, we think that we feel that we empower purpose-driven leaders to scale impact through the strategic use of networks. We study innovation networks and we use our research to map skill gaps and improve how networked teams work. But what we really do is we scan your brain. Now, we don't use these machines. We use different scanners, which is our Network IQ questionnaire that I know some of you have taken. And then you know if you're an advanced or a basic network thinking, and you get a scoring from your 7 skills. But before I move further, let me put some, Evelina's always telling me, Daria, be attentive that you explain what we're talking about. So 3 terms we will be referring today, just that you know my understanding. Number 1, what is Network IQ? Is an ability, is a skill set, is a capacity to manage uncertainty, connect talent, and build leadership skills of remote teams so that smart people who are already connected can achieve more than they even thought that they can achieve. And this is the Network IQ concept that we've been doing research on, and we've been developing practical tools and testing these tools with our clients to see to what extent we can make this individual change at the individual level happen, that a person suddenly feels being on a mission, feels empowered, feels as a leader, and is able to influence the world around that every one of us is connected to. Now, what is e-networking? Basically, it's a skill which helps an individual innovate in a network organization. Now, innovation is a process of learning as a network, and you're learning, I think I made some typos here, and it's a skill that helps you manage uncertainty. Now, I'm saying this because sometimes people think that networking is really about exchanging cards or building those superficial relations. But what it's really about is about building 2 types of relations. So it's about building those weak ties, this ecosystem networks, that you're ever expanding your network on LinkedIn or coming to this webinar. But it's also networking, it's also about building remote teams. And by a team, we have this concept that it's really an extended team. So anyone who's a collaborator, for example, in our team, we treat our clients as part of our R&D team, right? Because they help us co-create solutions. They are critical, they test them, they bring other insights. So we do not think of them as a transactional relationship. We think, no, this is part of our very important R&D team. some of our clients also become our marketing team. And I loved what a message I got this morning from one of the very early adopters of our methodology, who said, Daria, I cannot come to the webinar today. I'm so sorry. I really regret for the last notice. These webinars have been a highlight for me throughout the pandemic. And I thought, wow, Kim, thanks so much for sharing this, because this is like our not only marketing team, because she helps us get more traction and more clients, but it's like, someone who is my peer in a company endorsing me that what I do makes sense. So it's important that when you think about networking and using the networking as a process through which you learn, so you can disrupt the system, that you think about those weak ties, but also about building the stronger ties with people who traditionally would not be thought of as your team. Now, it all comes into the network IQ if you can bring those relations, align towards a sense of a shared purpose and work together. Otherwise, it's just a nice socializing, a nice thing to do. But I do believe that we should try to develop a better world, and the crisis is the best opportunity to do it. Now, when we say why the world has so many wicked problems, so many complexities that we cannot manage, you can say, yeah, because people don't want to do it, or yeah, because people don't know what to do it, it's not true. It's not true. We have a lot of data, we have a lot of science, we have a lot of wisdom, and we have a global consensus what should be done, right? The Sustainable Development Goals clearly tell us what is the direction. This is nothing controversial, and it's widely accepted. Now, the challenge is, as we see it, and as we learned in this EIT alumni retreat in Badalona, Barcelona, is that people don't have skills to build relations that would help them innovate and disrupt the system. Solve complex problems together. And this is a very interesting report on the future of jobs by World Economic Forum. And you can see what is the big shift over the last 5 years. So if we think about top 5 skills in 2015, we have number 1, complex problem solving, 2, coordinating with others, 3, people management, 4, critical thinking, 5, negotiation. Now let's see what has changed 5 years later, and this survey was done before the pandemic. Number 1 has not changed. So we still have complex problems and we still need to find ways to solve them, now more than before the pandemic. Number 2 is critical thinking. And I used to teach a course, Leadership and Critical Thinking, in a business school in Budapest and in Bucharest. And I believe that this was one of the most rewarding courses, because those young MBAs were taught, we were tracing together the biases, the limitations of our analytical thinking, but we were also tracing the thinking about our emotions, so emotional intelligence, and then about thinking how we think about the social system around us. So today, when we're working about network thinking, so part of the system, the human system, the social system connected as a network through the communication channels, I think critical thinking is absolutely part. It's a good skill to have if you want to become a high network IQ leader and influencer. What has changed is creativity was on point 10, on 10 ranking in 2015, number 3 now. And people management was number 3 and it's number 4, didn't change much. And 5, coordinating still stayed in the top 5. So really, I'm thinking that it's about the skills that we need to develop. And I would not underestimate the power that good-willed people simply do not feel entitled or do not feel empowered. And even if they do, they cannot take advantage to bring people together and solve complex problems. Now, as a quick reminder, what is the network IQ skill set? It's basically 7 skills: network strategy, networking, engagement, and empowerment, the 3 skills which actually allow you to grow your ecosystem exponentially. well, it's on a condition that you help others build their networks, right? If you're doing it alone, you will be always progressing, linear. But if you want to create the network effect, well, you engage members of your network and you empower them by opening the doors and giving them this aha moment. Why don't you meet that person? Because this may be a window to $1 trillion opportunity. Then digital communication and collaboration for diversity. These two skills are really important for orchestrating projects in the ecosystem. And when I'm saying orchestrating, it comes to the fact that when we look at the way people work today and the way organizations are structured, it's really about a portfolio of projects. We manage multiple projects as individuals, and organizations are connected within its boundaries and across the boundaries through different types of connected and morphing project teams. Now, it's key if you want to be a leader and influencer to understand that it's no more about coercion, it's not more about control and power. It's really about ability to create a music out of all these projects around you and being selective which projects you want to engage with. And then how you define your identity in this project team. I truly believe that with the remote work, every single person in a team must be a leader. We cannot expect a team leader really to take the responsibility. This is why when we work with teams, with remote teams, we break the mindset barrier that people really do not think of themselves as being accountable, not only for their part of the work, but for everyone else in the team. And we try to open them up to this new type of thinking about their leadership skills. And ultimately the influence, which is your ability to connect with other influencers and to reprogram together what is a network or a community about. So 7 skills make up the network IQ. Now it's very interesting to see a self-assessment. And I know that those of you who have taken the network IQ test, you know this, that one of the questions is asking how skillful do you consider yourself? So it's really not our assessment. I'm not presenting here. I'm presenting here a self-perception. So we can think, yeah, this is how confident people feel they are. And it's really interesting because out of scale of 4, really network strategy, networking, communication, and influence are the lowest rated. And people think in general that they are pretty good at collaborating with others. Now, today we are talking about the second skill, the networking skill. So we can say that 50% think that they are not actually very skillful in networking. Isn't this surprising? I thought people would say that we are just good at networking. And I have 2 daughters. Both of them will be graduating in the coming semester. And I was looking for inspiration. What could I tell them? What could I tell a young person? How, knowing through my experience that it's so important to build networks. And I found this old speech by Steve Jobs in 2005 at Stanford University speaking to graduates. And he said something that really clicked in me. He said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can connect them only looking backwards. And I think that it's as if I've heard someone say that 90% of things we learn at school will never be used. The challenge is that we never know what is the 10% that is useful in life. So the same with the dots. And if we say that every person we meet is a dot in our network, is a node in our network, we really do not know who will be really the right person at different avenues of our life that will help us bring the impact, make the difference, lead with a sense of purpose. Now, what Steve Jobs also says is that you cannot help it. You need to trust your gut feeling, your destiny. You just need to trust that there is something in your life that will guide you, and you just need to extend and see those dots. So those of you who were at our last webinar about network strategy, we talked about finding the right person. Out of the whole ecosystem that everyone is connected, it was really just as a quick reminder about first being clear about what is my purpose, being clear about communicating this purpose to other people and hearing what is their purpose. So finding those common denominators, values, dreams, and then selecting just a handful of communities. It doesn't make sense to network everywhere. I am part of maybe a dozen or more communities. Oh, in my life, it would be probably 36 communities, but I'm very strategic now, especially now, to focus on a few communities which also want to empower other people through learning skills for future so that they can innovate and change the world. So it's basically first step to find the right dots when you will be looking backwards, but you still can maximize the chances of doing this. It's number one, understand what is your purpose. Understand your why, as Simon Sinek says. We define our why in a little bit different sense. It's always being part of a community. So understanding how you will, can, and want change people around you. Not only your career, not only your destiny, but really something bigger than you. Then select 2 or 3 communities when there is critical mass of people who also are aligned like you to this purpose, and then select the right people. And we have a selection criteria just to practice how we go about strategic networking for innovation. Trust is always number one. Do I trust this person, or I don't? Second criteria is about, has this person ever given an opportunity to someone I know or not? Some people are sharing, and this is caring, and it's good to stick with people who are sharing and caring about you. Now, this is a very quick way to visualize this purpose network fit framework that we're using. But actually, when I listened to Steve Jobs, I changed my mind about this framework. And I want to be very honest, because we are developing the solutions, and we would love you also to give us your comments and your feedback. When I was using this framework, beautifully designed by our fantastic Gabriela, who's now a student in New York, I was thinking, as we all do, I start with you, right? So I saw myself being a little rocket, and then looking at my ecosystem, seeing where are the key communities that I'm connected, and in which community there is a critical mass of people who care like me about something that I want to achieve, that I want to change. And then how does this connect, makes me closer to whatever is our purpose. But I think that Steve Jobs really changed my mind. I think that if we look backwards, we would really need to change the perspective. So not start from who I know in these communities, which is our natural way of thinking about the networked ecosystems. We always think who's the right person, but really we think, whom do I know who can help me? But really changing the mindset at saying, for whom am I the right person, right? We are changing this mindset, understanding that we are not the center of the universe, that really what is the center, what is the sun of our galaxy is this higher end, something bigger than we are. So basically, if you're like me, every day you come to work, what it practically means that I use my smartphone to check who wrote to me on LinkedIn, what's going on, in my network. And then I check my emails, and then I jump in the Slack, which is our collaboration platform. But I think that it's important to realize that doing all these routine tasks, we are not really, doing routine tasks. There is something deeper that we do. And one way of thinking about it is that we're using these tools to build a safety net. A safety net which will allow us to take risk. So when we fail, there is someone to give us a hand. When we take a risk, it's a weighted risk. It's not a crazy risk, right? It's a weighted risk because we have people whom we can ask for advice, for feedback, with whom we can test our ideas. And then it's a network that really is friendly for you. It's friendly for you of who you want to become when you grow up. So we're leaving different traces in these networks. And if you, this is one of my favorite data visualization scientists, Cesar Hidalgo, with whom I have a pleasure to meet now to advise, commission on People, Planet, Prosperity, and he's mapping, visualizing the networks, the networked ecosystem. So you see many dots, and every trace you leave in the network, can be visualized like this. You're just one piece of data left somewhere in this broad connected ecosystem. Now, how would you know that you are the right person? Now, Sean Connery is absolutely my favorite Bond, and in the early November was a beautiful obituary in The Economist, which I love reading. And the article starts with a description of how James Bond was born. The author, the journalist says, well, the fictional figure of a special agent created by Ian Fleming had nothing to do, actually, with how Sean Connery looked. The imaginary figure was a thin, blonde-haired man with, I don't remember this English word, but it means that he was not a nice guy at all, right, with the way he looked. And then the camera pulls us into the casino, Les Ambassadeurs in London, and goes slowly from one person to another, stopping for a moment at the red chiffon dress of a beautiful woman, and then taking Connery from the back, and then suddenly looking at his face. And there's nothing you need to say. You know, this is Bond, James Bond. And the same when we're looking back at those little traces, little dots in the ecosystem, how do you know who's Bond? How do you know who's another agent who's on the same mission as you are, although he may not look like an agent, but you need to find this person. And in this very article, there was a statement which kind of opened my eyes. And I think that especially for my colleagues and friends and all the women on this webinar, I want to tell you something very personal that I thought I know already a lot about leadership, but still it opened my eyes. The journalist says, Sean Connery as James Bond was an embodiment of a British manhood. He was well-mannered, patriotic, and entitled. And this word entitled was my eye-opener. I thought, God, this makes the whole difference. If you feel entitled, you are entitled. And other people know you're entitled to be a leader and to be the influencer. So let me just walk you through a real life example, how I decided to show that I feel entitled and that I am a leader and influencer. And this brings me back to a virtual onboarding. And I'm using this example because this webinar, after all, is about e-networking for innovation. You know that I'm passionate about innovation, and you know that I am considered an innovation expert, especially innovation networks expert. So you can behave in different ways when you're building your ties in the ecosystem. And especially if you're immigrating, if you're going to a different country to live there, as I did a few years ago to Barcelona out of my home Warsaw, you need to find you need to build the relations, because it's a question of die or thrive. Who you meet, who knows you, how you relate to people. And Barcelona was a big thing for me, and I'm very proud that I have a community not only in Warsaw, but now I have a community, a Spanish-speaking community in Barcelona, and even a Catalan-speaking community in Barcelona. So I have many communities, and this really makes me quite happy and quite confident. So let me just give you a backdoor insight into how you could make yourself be well-mannered, patriotic, whatever this means for you, and entitled. So I attended a webinar this week or last week, organized by by the collider, by the it's a science acceleration program funded by Mobile World Capital Barcelona, which is a company set up by the city of Barcelona to contribute to changing Barcelona into an even more thriving ecosystem. And I love deep tech talks, and I'm deeply interested in 5G and Industry 4.0 and about the climate impact and sustainability. So I thought, yeah, I'll attend. And I could be like a ghost, so I could stay invisible. But I thought, no, I want my friends in Barcelona know that I care about them. I want to refresh my connections, and I want to meet new people. So the first thing I did was I posted a little message on Twitter. Hi, I'm attending this webinar, register now. And I tagged the Collider, the Digital Future Society, which is also a program by Mobile World Capital, and then Mobile World Capital. I did it because I just wanted to tell my network that this is what I'm doing. Maybe this could be interesting for them. But I also wanted to know my friends in these organizations know that I care to promote them. It's important that you let other people know that you promote them, because I always appreciate this, and I always give back if someone does it. At least I do try to do it. Now, then I went to the webinar, and this was fascinating. The experts from Nokia, I believe Ericsson and Telefonica, talked about the benefits of 5G, how we will move from the Internet of things to the Internet of cities, how this can be tested to change the manufacturing sector for automated vehicle and many different super interesting things. And I thought that my strategy whenever I show up on a networking event is that I let people know that I'm there. So the way I used to do it when I was attending a conference was that I would rather tend to sit in the first row, and I would tend to be one of the first people to raise a hand and ask a question. And I was doing it also because most likely I had something I wanted to learn from the speakers, but also I wanted other people, and especially other women in the audience, feel empowered to raise their hands and ask questions as well. And I wanted to build my digital brand. So to do it, when you're e-networking, the way to do it is simply ask a question on a chat. And I asked, hello, I'm from Warsaw. I said I'm from Warsaw because I wanted to other people know that there is something special about me, something that could distinguish me. This is why on the chat, I asked you, hey, you can say just your name and the place where you're from, but you can say something very unique so that other people will be easy for them to find you out of many, many dots that we saw before. And then I said, sure, 5G has many benefits for business and societal applications, but could you comment on the negative impact of 5G and how to mitigate it? Now, I like to ask difficult questions. And the way I always do it is never to offend anyone, but always in a positive context, that really what I want to do is to learn how people deal with these negative aspects. Honestly, my question was not taken. We moved on, but still, I thought it was a cool question to ask. Now, what was happening at the same time, since we are all multitasking, you saw that I'm on LinkedIn, on email, on Slack, I'm everywhere as a kind of digital twin walking around. And then I sent a message to a person whom I know on the panel. He's the CIO and a 5G program director at the Mobile World Capital, Eduard Martin Lineros. And I told him, Edu, a pleasure to listen to you live at YouTube webinar today. And then I looked at my prior conversation with him on LinkedIn, and I realized that I reached out to him a year and a half ago, actually with a very nice message saying, Dear Edward, it has been some times we are connected, but we had never chance to properly introduce each other. I'm sharing this very intimate conversation with you because I think LinkedIn is a super, super powerful network. And I think that it's more important today than ever before that you're revisiting contacts that you know, that you're reestablishing this connection. Basically, I was telling Edward that I'm invited to speak to give a keynote or speak at the upcoming Financial Times event in Amsterdam. Of course, I did it because, of course, I wanted him to know that I'm a VIP speaker and a person in Financial Times asked me to talk about this. But again, I framed it in a context that I do believe that you're one of the thought leaders in the industry. I do not know much about 5G. Would you care to meet with me and tell me more about it so that I am more educated when I speak in Amsterdam? And we met for a coffee. if you're curious if we met or not, but I'm sharing this, how you build a relationship when now we are working remotely, and you will be working. We all will be working remotely. Now, there was one person, Patricia, on the panel whom I didn't know, but I thought she's really cool. She looks like me, or I look like her. I'd love to get to know her. And I sent her a little message on LinkedIn, also saying, it's a pleasure to listen to you live. And this was real time. You get the insight from the backstage, what is going on, what was not visible. The same minute she wrote me back, gracias, Daria. And she accepted the connection. I'm sharing this because if you want to use networking to innovate, you need to cultivate the relations that you have. And you need to build the new relations in the ecosystem that you find relevant for your purpose. I am strongly connected with Barcelona, and I believe that this is one of the most interesting, vibrant ecosystems in Europe. And since I do care about the future of Europe, I invest my time a lot in Barcelona. Now, let me, before we will close, because I'm speaking a lot today, and before we will go to Q&A, let me just quickly walk you through a question that many people ask: what is the difference between network and a community? So to be clear, every community is a network, because a network, basically a social network, means that you're connected by some communication channel. People have always been networks. A family has always been a network. Now, what is different now is that basically communication channels allow us to communicate almost with everyone in the world, real time, and do the so-called mass self-communication. So the power is in your hand. If only you use this power, you have a possibility to become a leader and an influencer. Now, what are the values of building a large network, or maybe what is the value of kind of staying very close in a trusted community? It's good to have both, because networks give you access to data, access to communicate with a large group of people, so you can influence the crowd. It gives you access to publicly available information, sometimes to a very rare expertise and insights that you do not have in your community. Now, if you want to get insiders information, you better have a community, because networks give low ability to offer you this kind of insiders information. It's not trusted enough to share things which not everyone should know. The same with opportunities. Of course, it happens that in a network, someone advertises a new job position or some kind of new unique value proposition. But you know what? It's a rare chance that it will be something you're looking for. You may be just lucky. But in a community, actually, when you're networking, it may happen that reframing a relationship or reframing a communication, or reestablishing or re-onboarding yourself, you will create these opportunities, or rather these opportunities are there, but you will put a different spotlight and suddenly they will become visible for you and others. It's very important that a community gives a sense of belonging, support, a social status, and a power to influence others. It's all about trust. And I would not underestimate the power of being a member of a community now that we will be all continuing to work digitally. I read some very interesting reports recently, and one basically surprised me that 58% of European companies will increase investment in innovation over the next 2 years. I thought this was like rather wishful thinking, but if they do it, fantastic, I'm all for them. They not only need investment, but they also need skills to innovate together. But the other one report, I think, was Gartner, that 40% of people declare that they will continue to work to a significant extent remotely. So all these e-networking skills that we're teaching and the measurement that we develop to help teams and individuals understand how they can become more successful will become relevant. Now, let me take this last opportunity before we go to questions to invite you for a live LinkedIn optimization session with Tataj Innovation. We're organizing this next week. It's at 4 p.m. November 25th. You can learn more details on our LinkedIn profile, on Tataj Innovation profile. Just to show you, my team showed me my social selling index. I thought it was really cool. It shows basically that I am in top 1% in my network. So if you want something to learn from me, how I'm managing my LinkedIn network and how I'm building the community, and when you want to have a little bit of optimization for your own profile, this will be just based on Q&A and on concrete questions. Be most welcome to join us. So I guess we are stopping sharing the screen, and I will be opening the room for questions. So I would love to jump into the chat. Evelina, will you help me with the questions?
Of course, but I don't see any questions on the chat. Okay. So I propose that if there is any question, just unmute yourself and yeah, jump in.
Okay, so I will be reading. I see a message from Art Pastor, a GIM innovator. Happy to launch next week the #1 innovation for engineers using 3D CAD. Now 100% transfer between formats will be possible. Mail me. Okay, thanks, Art. Good for you. Good to share opportunity. Julia cannot stay till the end. This is fine. Adria loves the quote from Steve Jobs. Greetings from Barcelona and a LinkedIn. Check out Adria Gomez. And then Mariam asks, Daria, I love your point about seeing how we can contribute to the network and basically never ask the question, what can I contribute to this network by being part of it? I think this is most about sharing and giving to be able to keep your influence sustained over longer term. People who are mainly takers and more think about what they can get limit their influencing power over time. Mariam, I agree with you. If you're thinking, you know, what you can get, it's short-sighted. But let me also give an insight that it's good to stay connected with people who share thinking about you, so that it's not only you're thinking what to give to the community, but the community members think alike, what they can give to you, how they can give back. And it's not always transactional in a way that the same person gives back to the same person, just the opposite. You give something to the community and someone else gives this goodwill, help to another member of the community. But I would say that it's important to invest your time in these environments which are conducive, which are nurturing, which enrich you in one way or another. And it's good to be strategic about it. You know, the day has only 24 hours, right? Including the night if you're working all the time.
I can see one question, Daria, on the chat. What was the downside of networking? Sorry, Catalina, I will give you the voice in a sec.
Mm-hmm. There are many downsides of networking. There are people who think of themselves as kind of super networkers. And they think of themselves in this way because they attend, in the previous life, pre-pandemic, they attended many events. They were visible everywhere. They were the people whom you could expect to meet if you go to another meetup, conference, party, a reunion, banquet, whatever, you would see these persons there. And I believe honestly that there is a downside to it because having a brand, a status in a community or in a ecosystem, it's about having access to networks. But it's not only about this. It's also about having a status and being able to influence and having the power in this ecosystem. And some people who are very powerful are not very much visible in the network. So it's good to balance your visibility. If you're too available always, you will not be a valuable a valuable person really to talk to, because you will be able to be everywhere. But because you will be able to be met anywhere. But there is something else. There is a lot of insider information, and if you want people to know about it, you most likely will tell this person who's everywhere. But there's even more interesting that there are pieces of information you just don't want to know everyone else. So you will be very careful and censor yourself with this kind of person, because really being highly connected to all different sub-communities is because you have the shortest way of communicating a piece of data, a piece of knowledge to others. Now, there are information which are sensitive that you just don't want this to do. So, so for me, this is just two downsides of networking. And somehow I must say that if there is a person whom I personally see everywhere, I think double before I share something very openly. This would be my answer. Now, Catalina, you wanted to say, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Daria, thank you so much.
If you, Catalina, could just say briefly so that other people know who you are.
Okay, I'm Catalina Maldonado. I am Colombian and Spanish, first of all, but I consider myself a citizen of the world. And in fact, I'm a change maker. I try to be a leader and to empower others with communication skills. So I'm also part of TEDx Barcelona, and I do plenty of stuff related to education and communication, okay? My question is related to gender diversity, you know, because I am a leader, I'm a woman, and I would love to see the events and the network more equalized, because normally there is, like, of course, more men like speakers or men leading companies than women, you know? And for me, it's kind of crazy, but I'll tell you, I have the opportunity to bring women leaders to the stage to give a TED Talk. But for me, to write this leader is impossible because no one is replying through LinkedIn sometimes, you know? So what advice would you give women to empower them to connect with others? Because sometimes I have tried, you know, to make
So Catalina, so basically you're saying that you feel a leader, you want to empower other women leaders, and your way to do it is to give them a voice on a stage, and you're writing to them and they don't answer.
Yes, okay. I have seen that it's more difficult to connect and to attract people to give a TED Talk. And it's
Catalina, really... next time you need a woman to give a TED Talk, just call me, okay?
For sure.
But seriously speaking, don't give up, okay? My observation is that, unfortunately, and this is not data, this is just my personal observation, so don't quote me on this, that it is much more likely that a man will answer quickly to an email or answer, and that actually will be, in a way, more strategic, thinking about what opportunity to give you. I think that there is a lot of way women need to build their leadership skills and influence skills. So there was a super interesting, well, you know all that we were looking into the US, who will be the next president of the United States. And of course, the big thing really was Kamala Harris as the first vice president over 244 history of the United States. And I'm thinking that, you know, probably there were many other women before her, but they never made it so far. And what I loved about what she said was, she was quoted in the speech, in the opening speech, her mother, who was telling her again and again, when she was becoming the first prosecutor, the first woman prosecutor, the first, breaking all those glass walls and ceilings, she told her, "You're the first, but surely not the last." And I really loved what she said, that she plans to pull behind her other women leaders. So I love that she said it. So I think that you should just continue to try to pull other women. But at the same time, I think that there is a lot of work to do. And in my LinkedIn post about Kamala and about how happy I am to see a woman at this leadership position, I said, and I'm supporting her, of course, because she's a woman. But it's the right thing to support women. But it's actually, we just don't need more women to have more women. We just need to have better leaders. And to have better leaders, it's not about gender. You need to pull them into, what does this mean to be a leader in a digital world? So I think that you, Catalina, you just keep up the good work. I'm very proud, actually, that I managed to position a few very senior women in a very senior positions in the world, and then trained, the foundation that I started trained hundreds of young women leaders through mentoring. But I also think that, maybe you should think about yourself and showcase by being more proactive where you speak, when you give your voice. Because quite often women say, I'm very good using networking for others, for business development, but I somehow cannot do it for myself. Maybe, Catalina, let other women develop their leadership skills and the way how quickly they answer your emails or LinkedIn posts, and just, think about yourself as an influencer. Maybe your voice should be more heard. Okay. I see that we're coming to the end of this webinar, so I don't want to keep you too long. But for those of you who want to stay, I'm super happy to continue the conversation and take more questions. So I want to thank those who need to leave, and I'm super happy to stay with those who can and want to stay longer. Because
we have a few questions on the chat.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to go through them or you want me to read them.
So let me just, I have from, okay, I'm just looking. Okay, so I will go from the bottom. So I have, because I don't know where it started.
Sure.
Okay, so from Ruben Bach. Dear Daria, I need to leave, but I'd like to get honest feedback on the business opportunity from a former VC. Simply connect to me. Okay. Ruben asks everyone to connect with him. So I think you can find him on LinkedIn and reach out. What is this venture opportunity that he asks? Daniela says, thank you for insights. Would you say that in order to build or be part of the right network takes both time and professional opportunities? Meaning, and to quote you, as a VIP, it'll be easier to choose and belong to the right networks. Daniela, I'm an anarchist by formation. So by default, I don't like traditional hierarchies. Meaning, if people think that a right network is something that is very elitist, no, this is not the way I think. And I've been always very careful about cultivating my networks in diverse environments. Yes, I stay connected to very influential, high-power networks, but I also, at the same time, stay connected to networks that give me access to young people, that give me access to creative people, that give me access to people living in many different professional places, areas with a different background. So I definitely think that the right network, foremost, is the diverse network. If your system, if your ecosystem is very heterogenic, let me give you an example. We were working with a very interesting project in the Netherlands. And one of the persons on the program was a vice president of one of the largest companies, Dutch companies. And and we were working through this new way of thinking about building relations. And he told me, Daria, why would I do it? If I need to know someone, I just open my phone and call this person. And I thought, yeah, sure, this is easy if you're the influencer connected to all the senior people in business. But it was super interesting exercise. And in his team, they were people who needed access to university leaders in Europe. And it turned out that he knew really nobody. So he was useful in certain aspect, but he was totally not equipped with the right network to connect the team members to this very different network. So this is one way how I think about the right people in the right communities, must be diverse. Second is, if you're happy with knowing who you know and you're not growing your network, very hard to be creative, extremely hard to learn, and you're becoming endogenic. So I think it's important to say that that a right person is really someone who's so. Just to give you a concrete example, when I'm accepting I get a lot of invitations on LinkedIn, and I have certain criteria when I'm accepting or not accepting, which are kind of peculiar. So. Okay, a person needs to write a message, because if there is without a message and I don't know the person, usually I won't accept. But sometimes people who have only a few connections with me ask me to connect. Normally, I would not connect with them because there is not enough social ties that validate who they are in my network, right? But then I think this woman is from Jamaica. I really don't know many people in Jamaica, but she wrote a nice message. She's a professional in an innovation aspect, as I am. She referred to a post that I wrote, quoted the post. So in a way, she put an effort, this micro moment, to reach out, to learn what I'm doing, kind of onboard herself to this connection. And I think that this is a nice way to extend your networks. So for me, she was the right person, because I felt that for her, I am the right person. So this was this mutual bonding. Okie doke, we go further.
The next question is how to convince the people that implementing the soft skills like communication are hard work too. Will you see the question?
It's from Maria?
No, it's from Emil.
Daria, is my question.
Yes, Emil, can you explain?
Yes, as you know, I'm dealing with European projects, and I'm connected usually with different people with different fields, experience, and sometimes with the people from industry, and discussing who put more efforts to the projects or to the project's proposal. I received the reply that from the other side. I will provide tons of materials, plenty of measurements, and you are doing just paperwork sometimes, and communication is nothing. So in this manner, the communication is soft skill, mostly focus on you have to design communication materials. You have to send these communication materials and choose a right person for that. So for some people are not so hard work.
I think communication is really power, because if you're not communicating, you don't exist. And we will see a very interesting shift in the coming months in terms of people who will be growing very much into positions of power within their organizations and within their ecosystems. And I see, and we work with helping Okay, if in your team people think that communication is not worth, don't worry, just improve your communication skills. It does make sense to convince them. I think it doesn't, you know, but I think that improving the digital communication is the best you can do, is the best investment you can do for your long-term career prospects.
Roscoe, who's here, helps us align strategy to digital and vice versa. And I help with the technology implementations. And John helps with engaging employees and preparing the business for that change and creating a change culture. And so as we spoke to clients, these clients we've been working with over the last 6 months, we started to come to the conclusion that this premise, this dilemma is real. It's growing, right? This pressure of resizing and reshaping digital transformation and those investments. You know, we noticed some organizations are adjusting better to pivoting their digital transformation investments. So we thought it might be helpful to work with Carol in Aviation Week to cover this. So let's start by talking about the dilemma for a minute.
Absolutely. Do you want to tell us more?
So pre-COVID, you know, we enjoyed as an industry, or those who work in this industry, these amazing tailwinds, right? We had a whole lot of focus on growth, serve the customer, provide products and services as much as you can, and produce as much as you can, because we had that boom economy, if you will, in global aviation, as well as defense products and services. And so you saw organizations really able to produce and create opportunities and business cases, if you will, for everything from talent transformation to customer transformation. There were a lot of programs and still are in corporate functions. You know, global HR cloud is being deployed. Finance applications are being modernized.
Giacomo,
there was a whole lot of focus on digitizing supply chain, you know, model-based engineering, which is the next generation of digital design and CAD design, but even further. And then there were technologies coming out from our usual software vendors, such as Microsoft and SAP and others, that really provided advanced analytics. And then there were new technology vendors that provided some great digital platforms and AI, et cetera, that created a lot of effort and a lot of initiatives. And then the innovation one that I talked about, and really upgrading and reimagining the development process, inclusive of PLM system modernization. So all of these initiatives.
Giacomo, may I interrupt?
Some were connected, some were not connected, but ultimately this was a big luxury.
Giacomo, I had to mute you. I think that we didn't see you, and I was
a lot of digital transformation scope. In reality.
Yeah, Daria,
okay, I think Giacomo didn't hear us, right? Giacomo, thank you very much for sharing the insights about your company. And I would love to learn more if you just send a link on the chat. I think not only I will be interested to explore and learn more, but others as well. So maybe you can share it. I think we have time just for one last question.
Okay, so there is a question. Oh yeah, from.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Magda.
Hi, it's Magdalene speaking.
Magda, yeah, great to see you.
Sorry. Daria, I would like to get back for a while to the topic of the onboarding. I agree with what you've just said, that everybody is responsible and should feel responsible for building engagement and relationship in the team. But also, I think that within this particular period of the time, which is onboarding, the role of the manager is critical. And I would like to ask you if you could share with us best practices which managers could use to help a new employee to adapt in the team within this difficult period for him, while being new in the company and in the virtual team.
Magda, we are now working with a client, and it's a funny structure that they have, because they need to onboard partners. So these are people who work part-time for a project. So it's, I think this will be a phenomenon which will be more and more prominent, that it's not really a full-time person who comes to you. This is one case, but then more and more people will be sharing skills. So you have someone delegated from one company to work, I don't know, 2 or 3 days per week with you on your team. And we've been doing, the all things that we do is always about experimenting and learning by doing. And for this specific project, we were using Slack to consolidate this people coming from partners. There were 30 different organizations, and having the management team with the formal leader, with the communication person, with engagement person. So everyone in the team had a specific function assigned. And then we were looking at the dynamics of how people were taking responsibility or not of onboarding, and how the team, who was really, responsible for bringing them into functional, operational, working relationship, engaged with them or not. And to do this, we created small teams, and then we also created 2 channels. One was for sharing resources, so for inspiration and learning, and the other one was just for networking, for a little chit chat and getting to know each other and so on. And what we have learned from this experiment is that things that are obvious are not obvious at all. And I think that the biggest thing is that we should ask ourselves as a manager or as a team member, what do I take for granted? Because what we take for granted can pass by because it can be easily solved when we work face to face. But on digital, it just rolls into a spiral of misunderstanding, alienation, mistrust. And we were basically coaching the team of how every person in this team should take responsibility for onboarding this people coming from the partners to work with them. And the way to do it digitally, the way we were showing them practices to do it, was quite simple. Number one, show that you hear a person, right? I know it may sound trivial, but this is the first thing. Just show that you hear the person. Second, show that you understand and care, but by meaningful engagement. So, for example, if someone shared link to a video about a topic of interest, it's important how you make this person feel in the digital space. Because if the person shares something and gets no feedback or no engagement, most likely will not do it next time, but there will be some resentment, maybe minute, but there will be a resentment from sharing from this team. And we were coaching people how to share something and how to open up beyond professional life. So how to use humor, and how to use, open up maybe personally to the extent they feel comfortable with, showing that they're not only great professionals, but they're human beings. Then how to achieve certain things. So monitor the way people work in those small groups. And I would say that, we can take it to another conversation on the best practices and so on. But really important is that people need to learn new digital body language. What I mean by digital body language is that when we don't see each other, there are so many things that we still feel, and it's anxious not to able to be interpret your behavior. So we need to develop a code, a digital behavior, and then people will know what you mean when you're saying this. That it will become, some kind of tacit communication code. So first of all, make sure people hear when they're saying something, and that every person on a team, not only a leader, feels as a leader.
Very interesting. Thank you, Daria.
Thanks for asking this question. I found personally fascinating this experiment, how we were teaching the team by by doing, because also they probably were very capable leaders before pandemic, but you need just different skills, to be effective and build those relations with your closest team, with your partners, but also with the ecosystem. And we were teaching them how to engage with the company profile, how to show the sense of community as a team, not only as an individual. And this breaks really a lot of biases. For example, people were not, did not know whether they're entitled to connect with very senior people in their own organization on LinkedIn. Right, but this may sound trivial for some people, that it's obvious that if you're working for the same company, why don't you write a nice message to the president saying, hey, we're working in the same organization, so we're part of the same network, can we connect? The worst thing can happen, that the person will not answer, right? So, and this never should be taken personally, but they did not even feel entitled to do it, right? So they projected the same hierarchy in the physical world, in the company, to the digital world. It's a very different hierarchy in the digital world.
Mm-hmm. And would you say managers who are more goal task oriented are less effective in this aspect, like building virtual teams, influencing them, engaging?
You mean about this people orientation, task orientation?
Yes.
That's a very interesting question. And I think that it really depends on the situation and what is to be achieved. Because if we speak about very concrete tasks, then it's very good to be task oriented. You don't always need to be thinking about all the people and so on. You just need to get job done.
Yes.
But what I think is the kind of overarching framework on this traditional managerial grid is a purpose orientation.
Mm-hmm.
Because what will keep this virtual organization together is something that people will just have this sense of purpose. It may be hard to say it out loud, or they may not know how to talk about this, but there will be a sense of belonging and a sense of support that they want to give and want to receive. And I think that that this sense of purpose, really should be added to this traditional grid.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for sharing, Daria.
Most welcome. Okay, I guess we're quite over time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much with those who stayed with us. And let me invite you for a webinar in December. This will be about engagement, virtual engagement, and I want to say that my warmest thanks to Evelina and Marcello for helping to organize this meeting. And it's been wonderful to see you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.